Whether you're looking for a scenic drive or a tour that offers a little history, a loop around the Niagara Peninsula offers a lot of both. This tour can be done in a car, on a motorcycle, or on a bicycle, whatever you prefer. I'm going to start off this ride at the intersection of Highway 20 and King Street in Stoney Creek, Ontario, at Battlefield House Museum and Park, National Historic Site. On June 6, 1813, this was the site of the Battle of Stoney Creek. Early in the morning, under the cover of darkness, 700 British regulars made a surprise attack on an American encampment of about 3,000 men. In the confused fighting of the conflict, heavy losses were suffered on both sides. The American troops withdrew after 2 of their senior officers were captured. The victory of this battle is credited with preventing what was then called Upper Canada from being overrun in 1813. The museum is situated on 32 acres of parkland and gardens. It encompasses several historic buildings that you can tour and has an impressive 100-foot-high monument. After finishing up here, it's up the hill and onto Ridge Road. Stop in at the Punchbowl Market and Bakery for a cup of coffee, and an amazing piece of carrot cake, a chocolate square, or any of the other home-style dessert treats they offer. Right across the road is a striking geological formation called Devil's Punch Bowl, created by glacial meltwater at the end of the last ice age. Well worth a look, and a good place to digest that brownie you just ate, while taking in the view across Lake Ontario to Toronto. The Ridge Road is a mildly twisty road with the occasional pullover, overlooking Stoney Creek and Lake Ontario. Head down the Niagara Escarpment and turn right on King Street. This gets you heading east towards the picturesque town of Jordan. There are a number of wineries in the area if you want to sample some local wine, although it might be a bit early in the day for that, seeing as we have only just begun this trip. Jordan Village is a good place to get some lunch, with a good selection of small restaurants. The next stop is Port Dalhousie, which has some great restaurants as well as a few bars, in case it was too early for lunch in Jordan. At the bottom of the hill is Lakeside Park, and a really well-preserved antique carousel. This carousel has 68 hand-carved animals and 4 chariots, originating from between 1898 and 1905. In the center of the carousel is a great example of a late 19th century Frati and Company band organ. To take a ride in the carousel only costs the 1920s price of 5 cents. Not far from here on Lakeshore Rd is lock number 1 of the Welland Canal. Consisting of 8 locks, the Welland Canal connects Lake Ontario to Lake Erie, a distance of 27 miles or 43 kilometers, and enables ships to ascend and descend the 326 feet or the 100 meters of the Niagara Escarpment. Some 3,000 ships use the canal every year. That's a lot of cargo. The canal has been cut 4 times. The original canal was built between 1824 and 1829. Construction on the current canal began in 1913 but was interrupted by World War I and didn't resume until after 1919. The canal was finally opened in 1932 and plays a vital role as a part of the St. Lawrence Seaway. Motoring on along Lakeshore Road is a relaxing ride through numerous vineyards with the occasional distant view of Lake Ontario off to the left. It's not too long before you reach Niagara-on-the-Lake, often ranked as the prettiest town in Canada. Historically significant, it served as the first capital of the province of Upper Canada, which would eventually become the province of Ontario. It has well-preserved samples of colonial-style architecture and quite a few really great restaurants. It's definitely worth a few hours visit. As you exit town on Queen's Parade, you'll pass by historic Fort George, which can be toured. It's situated directly across the river from Fort Niagara in Youngstown, New York. Fort George was the scene of several important battles during the War of 1812. The Canadian Army also used it as a training base in the First and Second World Wars. Since 1984, Canadians and Americans have been meeting here to reenact a battle that took place in May 1813. The Queen's Parade becomes the Niagara Parkway, which winds its way along the west ridge of the Niagara River, through parkland that stretches all the way from Lake Ontario to Lake Erie. Along this route, there are quite a few pull-offs with scenic views of the Niagara River. And yes, you'll pass right by Niagara Falls. Slow down, stop for a minute, take a look, take a few pictures, and depending on the prevailing wind, get drenched by the falling mist. The next village, heading south on Niagara Parkway, is Chippewa, founded in 1850. This small town is where James Cameron, Hollywood director of films such as The Terminator, Aliens, Titanic, just to name a few, spent his formative years. Also, it's not far from here where on July 5th, 1814, the Battle of Chippawa took place, one of the longest and bloodiest military operations of the War of 1812. A historic plaque now marks the battle site. The Parkway meanders south along the west side of the Niagara River. It's been said that Sir Winston Churchill called the Parkway the prettiest Sunday drive in the world. People may debate this, but it's definitely a really nice drive any day of the week. The Niagara Parkway becomes Niagara Boulevard, just north of the city of Fort Erie. Not far from here, you'll come upon Old Fort Erie Historic Museum. The original fort was built in 1764 and was part of a network of fortifications developed after the 7 Years' War. If you have the time, this often overlooked fort is definitely worth a look. Moving on from Old Fort Erie, Lakeshore Road soon becomes Dominion Road. This will pass through some pleasantly shaded beach cottage areas such as Fort Erie Beach, Waverly Beach, and Crescent Beach. Time allowing, any of these can be a nice diversion if you need to get out of the saddle for a few minutes. Or, if a brisk walk is more your thing, just south of and running parallel to Dominion Road is the Friendship Trail, which travels 16 kilometers across the bottom of Fort Erie. The trail is part of the Trans-Canada Trail and occupies the abandoned railbed of an old CN rail line. The next stop is Ridgeway Battlefield National Historic Site on Highway 3. On June 2, 1866, a battle took place here between the Fenian Raiders and Canadian militia. This didn't turn out too well for the fledgling Canuck troops, but it did turn out to be a catalyst for Canadian Confederation the following year. The battlefield was designated a National Historic Site in 1921. Continuing west on Highway 3 brings you to Lock 8, Gateway Park, the southern terminus and final lock of the Welland Canal system, just before it reaches Lake Erie. From here, head south to Lakeshore Road. This is a mildly paced serpentine ride following the north shore of Lake Erie. Along here, Lakeshore Road is lined with small cottages, some over a century old, many of which are being carefully restored. And to the left, a relatively constant view of the lakeshore. Continue on through the town of Dunnville. And make your way to No.6 RCAF Dunnville Museum. The RCAF Dunnville SFTS, that's Service Flight Training School, British Commonwealth Air Training Plan, officially opened November 25, 1940. With a total of 2,436 pilots from Canada, United States, Great Britain, Australia, and New Zealand being trained here until November of 1944. The museum houses extensive displays of photographs, uniforms, memorabilia, and artifacts. They also have vintage aircraft, such as a Yale Trainer, a Cornell, a Fleet Finch, a Grumman Tracker, and a 7/8 scale replica of a World War I Newport 17. After you've had your fill of wartime air heritage, head south again, back to following the north shoreline of Lake Erie. Until the road takes a northerly turn. From here, meander over and head south on Highway 6, and you will come to the town of Port Dover. Every Friday the 13th, this small port town on the north shore of Lake Erie, with a population of about 6,000, swells to as many as 150,000 people, as motorcycle enthusiasts from all over descend for the day on the normally quiet little community. From early morning, there's a constant rumbling stream of two-wheeled, and sometimes three-wheeled, steel, gleaming chrome, denim, and leather, pouring into the core of town. The streets are packed with motorcycles and a sea of people checking out the rolling art, vendors, and local shops. There are a number of events, restaurants, taverns, as well as corporate and small business representation. So there's a lot to see and do. When you're ready to leave, head north to the town of Caledonia. As you cross over the Grand River, you will be traveling over one of the few remaining historic rainbow multi-arch bridges. This style is also known as the Bowstring Arch Bridge. There are even fewer of these bridges left that you can still drive over, as most that have been saved are now designated as footbridges. This 9-arch bridge, built in 1927, is longer than most, making it a true rarity. Unfortunately, the bridge may soon be demolished or replaced. Hopefully, enough people will have their voices heard to save this historic piece of architecture from the wrecking ball. For one last stop, and one of my favorite destinations on the Niagara Peninsula Loop, proceed north on Highway 6 until you reach the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum in Mount Hope, just southwest of Hamilton. Housed and preserved here is a collection of almost 50 RCAF and U.S. military aircraft flown from the beginning of World War II to present, most of which are still flying. To name a few of the famous planes in the collection, the Avro Lancaster, probably the most famous Allied bomber of the Second World War. The Lancaster had impressive flying characteristics and operational performance. Between 1942 and 1945, it conducted 156,000 sorties. That's a lot of bombs. This Lancaster is one of only 2 still flying in the world and the pride of the collection. Supermarine Spitfires served on many Second World War battlefronts, including North Africa, Italy, Normandy, Northwest Europe, Southeast Asia, and Australia. Of special note were the 11 RCAF Spitfire squadrons that provided air cover for the D-Day landings in June 1944. Fury Fireflies went into RAF squadron service in October 1943. They also served with the Royal Navy and the Royal Australian Navy during the Korean War. There are about 20 Fireflies that have survived, but the museum's example is the only one in flying condition today. The North American Harvard was used for training nearly all the British Commonwealth fighter pilots during World War II and for 10 years afterward. It's considered to be one of the most famous and successful trainers of all time. The North American Yale is an earlier version of the Harvard trainer, the difference being the Yale had a fixed undercarriage. You can even book a seat for a flight on the Lancaster or some of the other heritage planes for a fee. Contact the museum well in advance for more information. Enjoy some time walking amongst these amazing restored, historically significant warbirds and the informative displays and artifacts. Once you've finished here, mount up and head out. Making your way over to Highway 56 and head north. This will shortly become Highway 20. When you get to the bottom of the escarpment, you'll be right back where you started, having completed a loop of the Niagara Peninsula. I hope this inspires you to get out and explore, get out and have some fun.